This is Adam Watson.
And Levon Baker.
You're listening to the Darkslinger Mafia podcast. We accidentally took a week off last week. Wasn't really on purpose. We just couldn't find the friggin' time to record. And this podcast is going up late. We're going to have to get back on schedule at some point.
Yeah.
We did record on Saturdays or Sundays forever. And I had them up Monday to me, but that means Tuesday to most other people because it would be 2 or 3 in the morning. But,
right. But it's close enough.
Hopefully I'm able to edit this one pretty quickly and get it up either tonight, which is Wednesday night, or tomorrow, Thursday night. Guess we'll see. It'll be up on Friday, no matter what.
It's better to just say that it'll be there Friday.
Right? Yeah, it's been a tremendously busy couple of weeks.
Oh my god, yeah.
And unfortunately, not a lot of it's been busy with comic work.
No.
I need to get busier, though. We finished up the Lil Le Mime and the Mini-Slingers Christmas story, and now I need to get cracking on a short for Halloween, so that
Nice.
Patrick has something to work with there. He sent me a pitch that's pretty good. I think it gives me enough to work with, but just trying to find the time to sit down and write it out or do artist corrections or any of that.
Right.
Not easy. It was a lot easier back when I had an editor and I had somebody to just tell to do this stuff.
That makes sense.
So I think I'm going to need one of those again at some point in the future.
Yeah. It would definitely be a good thing.
Yes, it would be. So, on the last podcast, I don't remember what it was exactly, but we had said something about James Gunn.
Oh, God.
I don't remember what it was, but I know that we had briefly mentioned something about a controversy that was going on with him. But the thing is neither of us knew what the controversy was.
Right.
So, we were just kind of talking about how awesome the Guardians of the Galaxy movies were, I think. So I figured we should probably spend a couple of moments to talk about that, because I found out in the meantime what the controversy was, and I was like, oh shit.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. I don't want it to seem like, I know there are a lot of celebrities coming out in support of him and everything, and I'm in support of free speech, but I don't want to be supporting him because I don't agree with what he did.
Yeah.
So, James Gunn started off with Trauma, right?
Right.
But he would have been working on Guardians of the Galaxy 1 10 years ago, right?
I would think so, yeah.
Yeah, I would think so,
Seems
too.
about right.
Yeah, I'm not sure. There's friggin' 20 Marvel movies now.
Yeah.
So trying to keep track of them all, especially with all the Netflix shows, and then you also got to consider the X-Men movies, the Spider-Man movies, all that,
Right.
It's not easy. But
Definitely not.
In any case, I'm going to say the majority of these tweets were when he worked on Guardians of the Galaxy, but I could be completely wrong about that. These could have been tweets back when he worked on Trauma films. And I know the whole point in Trauma is to shock and revolt and all that, you know, and we've talked about that before, and that's all good and all fine, if you want to sit around watching Trauma movies all day long, that's perfectly fine. I can take about 3 a year.
Sounds about right to me. 3, maybe 4 if it's one of the better ones.
Right, if you watch Toxic Avenger,
right,
then maybe you can watch that one more than once.
Yeah.
The last time I watched that with Emily, and she got really, really grossed out when they ran the kid over.
Oh, God.
Towards the beginning when the street punks do it,
Yeah.
So I had to turn it off because she was not having it.
It's like you can watch the Toxic Avenger movies, but maybe Class of Nukem High is pushing it.
Right. So apparently he had deleted a bunch of tweets. And I don't know if he deleted them before or after the controversy. I'm not sure on that one. So I can't comment on that one.
Right.
But he had deleted a bunch of tweets, and from the sounds of it, there were thousands.
Yeah.
Not just a few, but literal thousands of tweets that were talking about child molestation.
What the hell?
Yeah. And it was stuff along the lines of when I lead a Boy Scout party, that's what I call an orgy or some shit like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
It was those kind of things.
Nasty joke type stuff.
A lot of it didn't even come across as jokes. There was one of the tweets, okay, this one I know I'm remembering a bit better. There was, I remember my first NAMBLA meeting. It's where I met some of my biggest BFFs, still friends with some of those guys to this day.
Yeah.
How's that a joke?
Right.
That's not a joke.
That's, yeah.
Like, there's no punchline to that. There's no setup to that. That's not a fucking joke.
Right.
So, the whole thing is a bunch of the far left-leaning type press has attacked not the credibility of these tweets, because nobody is denying that he hit Twitter with like 2,000 fucking tweets about child molestation.
Damn.
Nobody's denying that fact.
Right.
But what I've seen, like the Young Turks, who, if you don't know who they are, they're pretty far left-leaning. I guess you'd call them news. I consider them news, honestly, the same way I consider Alex Jones to be news.
Yeah.
If you get your news source from either of those guys, I worry about you. That doesn't mean that I don't watch occasionally just to see, like, you know, what the far this side has to say.
Yeah.
In any case, they weren't attacking the fact that he had stated it. They weren't defending the fact that he had stated it. What they were doing was attacking the person who brought the whole thing to light.
Right.
So apparently the guy who brought it to light is a far right-winger who has made multiple tweets that basically state how okay it is for men to rape women.
Right.
Things along that line. I don't know who the guy is that they're talking about. I didn't do any deep digging into him. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Like, that guy shouldn't be saying that shit either.
Right.
But Disney fired James Gunn.
Yeah.
And a bunch of celebrities, primarily those who worked with him on Guardians of the Galaxy, either came out or sent in letters. Like, Bobcat Goldthwait apparently said that, you know, he told some joke back in the 80s in stand-up comedy, and he's friends with James Gunn, by the way.
Yeah.
And maybe Disney should remove his voice from an upcoming ride at one of their parks.
Yeah.
For starters, when the celebrities come out and say this kind of shit, it just seems totally disingenuous to me.
Right.
Because it's like, yeah, right. You know, you could actually force them to remove your names from credits or remove your voice from this or that, maybe on some things. I mean, they do own it after they purchase it to a degree, but like, but you know, you could come out in strong protest or whatever. Just stating that or just writing a letter and putting it on Instagram doesn't mean shit to me.
Yeah.
That's basically just you being like, oh, well, you know, I still want to be in this, but just in case there are any fans who are pissed off over this, you know, I'm going to go ahead and still side with this guy.
Right.
So I don't buy that bullshit. The whole thing is they're trying to turn this into a left versus right issue, right?
Yeah.
Which I think is really stupid when they try to do that with things that are not left versus right issues. Of course, people who are Republicans are going to be against somebody making tweets like that.
Right.
You don't need to tell me that Republicans are going to be against stuff like this, because the whole point of the Republican Party is supposed to be family first and shit like that. Family first generally means anti-child molestation, right?
Unless you're in a really weird family.
Yes. We probably have a few of those around here.
I'm sure
unfortunately.
we do. Yeah.
But Estacada's only, you know, a little bit of a drive away. I know.
Yeah.
I know. We both grew up in Colton, so we know what that means.
Exactly.
So anyhow, though, the whole thing is he's been fired. He's not working at Disney anymore. Doesn't mean he's not going to be working anywhere anymore or anything like that.
Right.
But for the time being, you know, he's not on Guardians of the Galaxy. And I saw a lot of people who are coming out who are like, you know, he was just making jokes, and this is a free country, this is free speech. So that's actually what I want to talk about for a minute.
Yeah.
Because, number one, if you're telling jokes, make them come across as jokes.
Right, not as statements.
Right? You come out with 2,000 fucking tweets that are just dry blanket statements that are talking about weird child molestation things.
Yeah.
That seems more like you're not making a joke.
Right.
I don't care how much you're trying to shock or appall people.
Yeah.
There are other ways to shock and appall people. You know what I mean?
No kidding.
Number two, I fully believe in free speech. But where is the dividing line between free speech and admitting to a crime?
That is a very good question.
And I personally don't have a clue what the answer to that is.
Yeah.
But if I took to Twitter and over the course of a few years had made 2,000 different tweets that didn't come across as jokes, and not just because there was nothing funny about them, but because they weren't even delivered like jokes,
Right.
about murdering the same person, do you think that it would be free speech, or do you think that I'm admitting somehow to a crime here. I mean, at the
Right.
very least, you would think somebody might tip the police off, and if this person turned out that they were actually dead, they might do some investigating, right? So I think, hey, at the very least, go ahead and investigate this motherfucker who's talked about molesting children 2,000 times.
Completely understandable.
You want to talk about molesting children 2,000 times, you're a motherfucker. I mean, like,
Yeah.
you know, well, worse than that, but, you know, I got no
Yeah.
sympathy for whatever fucking happens to you.
Dude, no kidding.
But anyway, the point is, you know, it seems like you're admitting to a crime.
Right.
So that's the way I'm going to think about it.
Exactly. No, that's how it comes across to me.
Yeah. And, you know, they can go on and on. I'm definitely not a right-winger, not a left-winger either.
Yeah.
But, you know, so it's not just the conservatives that are thinking this way.
Right.
But and it might be unpopular in the comic community at the moment to admit to, you know, not being left or not being right or blah, 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 blah. But, you know, yeah.
Exactly. I mean, it's freedom of speech, and if you choose not to be one or the other,
Well, yeah,
then
there's that.
that's
But
your choice.
what are your thoughts on that? I definitely think, like, is he's working for one of the main Disney family-friendly studios.
That's fucked up.
He's working for Marvel Studios, which is supposed to be, like, one of the family-friendly divisions of Disney, right? I know that there are some of the movie companies under Disney that are not family-friendly, that do R-rated films.
Right.
But Marvel is not supposed to be one of them, right?
Yeah. Marvel is still strictly under Disney, not Miramax or...
Right,
whatnot.
exactly. So, with my whole thoughts on that is like, okay, he's working under that studio, he deserved to lose his job.
Yeah, no kidding.
I don't care if they were tweets he made when he was 19.
Yeah.
Somebody who goes around making 2,000 tweets about molesting children should not be working for Marvel.
Exactly.
No way in hell.
Go find a job somewhere else.
Yes, you got anything to add to that?
Oh, God. I think you pretty much covered that. He sounds like a fucking nut.
Yeah.
And I do remember how we got on that topic now. It was
Oh, you do?
because the news was that he was going to be directing another Marvel movie.
Oh.
It was-
I don't think that's happening, though.
Right, it was one of those, like, oh, is he possibly going to be directing another movie that wasn't Guardians of the Galaxy? It was
Yeah.
when I was scrolling through all that random comic news crap that was not even interesting.
Yeah, the whole thing is that Disney might have known about these tweets, but the moment it became news story,
Right.
that's when, you know,
Yeah.
Well,
they're going to
too
take
bad.
a step back and be like, oh, well,
right?
I think we're reconsidering that one.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's understandable. I completely agree with that.
Yeah, and I don't know what's wrong with somebody where they would make 2,000 tweets
Yeah, what the fuck?
about that shit and saying you belong to NAMBLA and shit.
Yeah.
Like, fuck. That's... If he was watching South Park, the NAMBLA episode, and that's what he got out of it,
Yeah.
there's something wrong with his brain.
Right.
Because it's not all the way Matt and Trey were doing it on. You know, like, that's the whole reason I even know what the hell NAMBLA means, is
Yeah.
because of the South Park episode.
I don't even know what it means.
It's, well, according to the episode of South Park, it's National Man Boy Love Association, something like
What
that.
the fuck?
Yeah, and apparently...
I wonder if that's the actual term for it, or if that's just South Park's...
No.
interpretation.
Apparently it's like the real thing.
That's the
because,
real definition of it?
Yeah, because in the commentary for that episode, they say something about like how they unsuccessfully tried to sue them.
Damn.
For that episode,
what
yeah.
the hell?
Yeah, because it's some sort of organization that claims they're not child molesters,
Yeah.
but that they're people who have thoughts like that or some shit like that, and they're trying to like normalize it and take it back to Greek
If
times.
that's any better?
Right? Because, you know, like in Greek times, if Socrates was doing whatever with Plato when he was 13, it wouldn't have
Yeah.
been a big deal societally, right?
Right.
So they're basically like wanting to live in those times again. Well,
Times change.
times change and there's a reason humanity evolves.
Yeah.
So, you know, you evolve to thinking, okay, this is an adult, not this. This
Right.
is, you know, right to do with an adult, but not, you know.
Yeah.
So, and I'm pretty positive that during Greek times and Roman times, that there were probably areas where they still saw that shit as off limits.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't think, I'm pretty positive, I know it's in 300, but I think that, that there is actually reality behind that the Spartans didn't engage in that.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I mean, that kind of makes sense. With you saying Plato being like 13, I mean, people got married at really, really young ages, even a couple hundred years ago.
Right.
So, if you think back to mythology and shit like that,
well, if you actually read into Roman society and all that past the point of what you're taught in school, there's a lot there about like how they raped slaves and shit like that, and since they had slaves that were so young, they raped them alongside any of the older slaves, and and like that was a pretty common thing to do in like the Athenian society.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of sick shit there.
It's messed up.
Yeah, this isn't what the whole podcast needs to be about all night. It's just, I figured we'd talk about that for a minute because we briefly touched on James Gunn last time, and now that I know what the controversy is actually about, fuck that shit.
Yeah, kind of need to restate your opinion on it.
Yeah, and just state, fuck you, James Gunn.
Exactly.
I do love Guardians of the Galaxy number 1 and 2. I'm not going to state that I don't love those movies. But, fuck him.
Well, and that's the thing where it comes to, can you separate the art from the artist?
I can.
Yeah.
Personally. I know that a lot of the writers that I love from, years back were horrible people.
Right. But at least you can admit that you know that, but you still appreciate their art.
Yeah. Well, I can separate the art from the artist, but I do know a lot of my friends who can't. Even friends who create comics.
Yeah.
Which is an interesting sort of thing when you think about it. But I will state, I can't always separate personal experience from art.
Right.
So, if you show me a work of Hemingway.
Yeah.
And I read it and I love it. And I know Hemingway was a piece of crap in real life. Arguably, some of the piece of crap things he did were awesome. But, because, like, Hemingway had sex with, I think it was Al Capone's, pretty positive it was Al Capone's girl on the steps at a speakeasy while Al Capone was upstairs.
What the hell?
Hemingway was a badass, right?
Damn.
He was a dick, but he was a badass.
Yeah.
But, you showed me this, and then you tell me about, like, all the bad things that Hemingway did, or this or that, or, that doesn't change the experience I had reading his book.
Right.
I will state there have been times when I've been at Comic-Cons and I met somebody whose work I really liked.
Yeah.
And left the table hating everything about them, including their work, because they were just such unlikable people,
Right.
And I hope that I don't give anyone that experience ever.
Right.
But, I have had that, and then I've also had it to where, I just kind of had a mediocre review on somebody's work, tabled next to him throughout the day, talked to him for the whole day, and came away with a deeper appreciation for their work, and that might just be because I heard them talking about their work more.
Right.
What they were attempting to do, and even if I thought they failed, I knew there was at least more of a thought process that went into it that I could appreciate.
Yeah.
And then, of course, there's been times where some of my, greatest friends, I've seen the artwork process of the book, loved it. They've told me what it's going to be about, loved it. And even after we're great friends, sit down to read it and fucking hate it. Because it just turns out to be an awful, schlocky piece of work.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's understandable, though.
But, it is kind of harder when you personally know them. Separate it. But I would imagine if I went back and watched Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 2, I'd still enjoy them. Yeah. And it's not like you see James Gunn's face in the movie
it's
at
not
all.
like he's like the main, actor. Or, like,
no, it might be a lot
is about
different
his life, like,
if this story came out about Chris Pratt or Dave Bautista or one of those guys.
And you're watching it and you're just like,
knowing that it's the director, a piece of shit made the movie, but at the same time, like, you can kind of separate out the art from the artist that way,
Right.
And,
definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. But I don't know. I haven't watched it yet. And I do know that finding out what Bill Cosby did made me think so much differently about all those pudding pop commercials I watched as a kid.
Oh, God. Does the pudding pop taste like chloroform to you?
Right. But then again, we know Bill Cosby actually did those things. James Gunn could just be a stupid individual who thought, oh, I'm a trauma employee, it's my job to say stupid shit like this.
I think I'm
Could've
funny.
been. Right. Could have been. I mean, like, you know what passes for humor in a lot of trauma movies is not funny.
Yeah, very true. Like, a good 3/4 of it.
At least.
Oh, God.
And now, if my buddy Josh is listening, he's completely turned it off and will never listen to us again. He's the biggest trauma fan in the world.
I mean, I love trauma movies.
I know.
But I can admit that they're garbage.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I can admit that they're
supposed to be garbage.
Yeah, exactly. They're total shit.
They're intentional garbage.
Yeah. You can only make a movie like that knowing that you're making a shit movie.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. So.
Do you have anything else that's going comic-wise that you're going to be working on in the near future, or?
Well, pages from mission number 5 continue to roll in. Just posted page number 3 for Bovine Muerte.
Nice.
Today. Still working really, really hard on trying to get the Ghost Assassin Kickstarter all fulfilled. I've had some major printer issues that I need to do an update on the Kickstarter and inform everybody about what's going on. So maybe I'll just wait until after I've done that update this week before we talk about it on the podcast.
Makes sense.
But yeah, it should have been a pretty simplistic process, but has turned out to not be one for several reasons, including the fact that I included Prelude in the back of this book. Prelude was the first story I ever printed.
Right.
And I used what were basically digital specs when I did that comic because I found Kablam and was just like, oh, just give me the pages to these specs that were for this one company, not knowing those weren't the same specs that would be used for offset printing. And I didn't go back and check over the files before.
Yeah.
But, I'm working with a printer. Things are moving along, but one of the other problems is that Edward Malloy Brothers, who's a huge printer that I'd done business with lots of times, a week after we confirmed everything and set it all up and I thought I had the files all right for them, I get an email saying they're going out of business.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Dude,
so
that sucks.
It's not been an easy process.
Right.
But, I'm going to get it settled. I know I said that I would have those books out by May, and I feel so shitty that I haven't.
Yeah.
But I'm doing my best to try to make sure they get out just as quickly as possible,
Right. And I think the fact that you restate things, online, through podcasts and stuff like that.
Yeah, I need to do the
reassurance.
actual Kickstarter update.
Yeah.
Though,
You still keep people up to date, and
I try to do my best, too.
as far as I'd be concerned, if I pledge to something,
Uh-huh.
and they're keeping me up to date, if it's 2 years from now, I might be a little, irritated.
Yeah, I'm not going to let it go a year.
Well, yeah,
That's
no,
not
I'm just
gonna
saying,
happen.
I've seen some
We
online
already
that they've been
have
pushing
the raw
several years.
editions in stock.
Right.
So if I continue to have problems with the offsetters, I'll give the people the option of waiting on the offset, or I can just run a digital. And if enough people want a run of digital editions,
Yeah.
but what I mean by digital is just printed on demand,
Right.
like the raw editions were. If they want that, then I'll go ahead and just run those and get the offset printing, done at my own leisure, basically.
Right.
That would end up eating up a lot more of the budget that was for the Kickstarter.
Right.
But if that's what needs to happen and that's what people find acceptable, then that's what I'll do.
Yeah.
So, I'll do whatever to make people happy. But I hope people want to just wait for the offset run because it's going to be a lot nicer quality, a lot higher grade. I've just had to do a lot more work getting this ready than what I was anticipating.
Yeah.
Because I thought I had all the files just ready to go, and then it turns out when it was ran through all of the systems, nope. Because of this and that, and basically what it chalks up to is part of that book is not me today setting it up.
Right.
It's me from 2006 when I have no clue what I'm doing yet.
Yeah.
So
Different standards for different times.
Yeah, exactly. But I have faith that I'm going to get it all fixed, and I just need to do the update and hopefully make sure that all the Kickstarter backers still have faith in me too. So
Yeah.
And I do forget at times that I haven't updated because there is such a large number of the backers that I personally know.
Right.
I've already talked to at cons and things like that. That it does make it more difficult for me to remember to sit down and do the actual update on Kickstarter.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Oh, well, I already talked to, like, the last 30 people that I know that, you know, pledged, so, you know, they don't...
There's truth to that, you know? It's like Robert's one of the backers, right?
Yeah.
Which is one of the other co-hosts for the podcast. And he was just here, like, 2 days ago, right? He asked me, so what's going on with that? Da, da, da. I tell him, last con I did, I think I ran into 2 of the backers.
Yeah.
Talked to him about it, you know? It's just... It does make it more difficult, but Kickstarter is a transparency machine. You need to be transparent. You need to communicate. So I just got to sit down and force myself to, you know, write out a update that's worthy of someone taking the time to read it.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest pain in the ass to me about Kickstarter, is when when I see an update from somebody and their project's running late and it's like 2 lines. I don't like that.
Yeah.
On the other hand, if it's way too long, I might just skim it and delete it. But I would rather it be long and offer the explanation and what's happening with it and so on and so forth. So that's the thing I want to do. I don't want to just do a quick update. And doing the really detailed updates, you know, they can take you like a half hour.
Yeah.
Because you want to proof it. You want to make sure there's no errors. You want to make sure you got everything right. And because of that process, you know, it takes more time, and right at the moment I'm doing so much eBaying and this and that, and trying to talk to printers and trying to do this, trying to talk to artists. I have 4 different projects going on right now. I just don't want to talk about the other 2.
Right.
And so, while one of them is Ghost Assassination number 4, I guess I can talk about that.
Yeah.
But you know, with all of that going on and trying to find the time to write Inspiratu, trying to find the time to write the next issue of EBM, trying to find the time to write this, that.
It's a lot to process.
It is, and you're over here enough. You know how damn busy I am.
Absolutely.
I'm always doing something.
Always asking me to set reminders on my phone. You know,
right?
remind me to do this and that. I can do that.
Yeah, but I definitely, you know, I want to get this fulfilled as quick as possible. I want to be able to do my next Kickstarter. I don't want to be having to wait forever. I want to launch a Patreon for the podcast, for Bovine Muerte, for... You know, it'll kind of cover all the webcomics and basically just kind of cover Darkslinger itself on a monthly basis, really and truly. But I don't feel like I should do that until I have the Kickstarter fulfilled. I don't think that's right to do.
Right.
So, you know.
Makes sense.
Basically, clock is ticking on everything all the fucking time.
Yeah.
You know? So, but that's the way it works.
Very true.
You want to wear this many hats, that is definitely the way it works. You don't want to wear this many hats.
I don't think I could handle it.
You think your neck would snap under the weight?
Oh, God, yeah. It already does under my hair weight. So when is the Hillsborough Library...
That is going to be September 22nd.
Okay, so that's about a month away.
Yes, and I just got the final form to fill out and send in. That's basically like the, you know, you'll be here at this time, do this kind of thing. And it's really weird because it asks for a copy of your car insurance.
What?
Yeah, I did an event in Hillsborough in February. And
yeah.
It did not ask for anything like that. And then I did this one, and it asks for that, but... You know, I'm imagining it's because you're using their parking lot as a part of their venue, load in, load out. It's just like kind of a safety precaution thing. But they put in there that it's required of all of their events. But I didn't have to do it at the Comic-Con one. So.
Must be something new.
Or somebody screwed up when they were doing all the paperwork for the Comic-Con event.
That makes sense, too.
Either way you go about it, it's not that big a deal for me to just give somebody my insurance.
Yeah, but it is bizarre.
It is bizarre, and it made me wonder, like, what happens with people like you who don't have cars?
Right.
You don't have a car, you have no insurance, so...
Gotta give my backpack insurance.
Right? Well, that's kind of like... The whole thing, though, is just, you know, it didn't ask, do you own a car?
Right.
It just said, hey, we need your insurance.
Here's my deal. My skateboard is my transportation, so, you know, if it breaks, I don't hold you responsible.
Right? But I am majorly looking forward to that event. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Definitely.
I had a great time the 2 days that I was in Hillsboro before. It's a fantastic library.
Is it a multiple day show this
This
year
is
as well?
just a one-day show.
Okay.
So this is a one-day show with panels, and I'm on 2 panels. And I don't know if it'll be set up the same way as the Comic-Con was. But the way the Comic-Con was set up is that when you walked in the library, and the library is really big.
Right.
Really, really big. There was a panel room off to the right-hand side past their cafe. And yes, this library has a cafe in it. And so we went up the stairs past the panel room, and that panel room had some of the panels, but I was on one of them, but didn't get the opportunity to go to that one because I didn't. My helper had ran away from the table at that time, and the guy who was running the thing said, there's not really even anybody at that panel, so if you don't want to go, you don't have to. So I was just like, well, I'm just going to skip it then because I'd rather just sit here and make cells, and I was making cells.
Yeah.
And then they had the main room, which had all of the tables set up with the comic creators kind of flanking the outside, and had a podium with seats set in the middle, and there was like a secondary panel going on there, which was pretty cool because I really enjoyed hearing some of the people speak, and some of them I did enjoy hearing a little bit less, but all the same, I enjoyed listening to the majority of the people who spoke, and it was just right there.
Right, you can still make your sales, but attend the panel.
Right, and I could keep an eye on Elias and make sure that he wasn't doing anything,
Yeah.
like when he was helping customers out, which was quite nice. And then right before my last panel started, customer actually ran up from my table up to the area where I was on the panel and asked me to sign a couple of books, right?
Yeah.
My fellow panelist was pissed about that for some weird reason. I don't know why.
Because they weren't getting asked to sign books?
Probably. But here's just a little tip. Don't have $40 be your only price point when you do a Comic-Con.
Oh.
Yeah.
Why?
I did so well at the Hillsboro show, right?
Yeah.
But I had my pint glasses, which were $7, my shot glasses, which were $5, button sets, which were $3 a piece, Chronicles Von Helsing 1 through 4, $3 a piece, the Sally Minis 2, number 5 is 4, El Bovine Muerte number 1 is 4, I think. I had a pretty good range, right? Who Will Save the World is $8. I don't want to mention who I was on the panel with, but I will just state they had like 4 collections, and they were impressive collections. They were like 800 pages or something like that.
Yeah.
But like 4 collections, they were priced at like $40 a piece.
Holy crap.
Yeah, and I better really like the thing that you have to pay $40 for it.
Yeah. No, I can understand that, because if I walked in and I saw it and I was like, oh, that's cool.
Right.
I don't have $40 to drop on.
Right, and it was
book.
a collection of webcomics.
Yeah.
So the way the book was cut was in the same way that you used to see like the Garfield books being sold.
Right.
And you probably checked out from the library, so it had that rectangular shape to it. I don't know if it's this way for most people, but when I see books that are in that specific pattern, my brain thinks cheap garage sale.
Yeah.
Because that's the only place I ever got books like that when I was a kid.
Right.
Peanuts and Garfield, and those are the type of things that I think. I don't even think Calvin and Hobbes, because, I never had Calvin and Hobbes like that. That was in, like, a bigger book.
Right.
So, the quality on the book itself looked good, all that. I'm not saying anything like that. But just the fact that the price point was $40, there may be a reason somebody's not asking you to sign something.
Well, and that if that's the only thing that you have.
Mm.
Damn. Yeah, if that's the only thing that you have on your table.
Right.
Chances you might sell one. You might sell 2.
Yeah, I think
but
I think that they sold 1 or 2 of them. Something like that.
I would think that it depends on how well you pitch it to people, or if they already know what it is.
There was no pitch going on there.
Ah.
No.
So it was just, it's on display and you can look at it if you want it.
Yeah, I'm definitely not trying to talk shit, but I will just state this person comes across as unpleasant.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the issue was, but I could tell there was some sort of animosity towards me from the moment I sat down.
Right.
And while we paneled together well enough, I didn't particularly like them, and I could tell they didn't particularly like me.
Yeah.
And the whole thing was like, we were very standoffish towards one another, and I had done a walk around the tables on the first day just to see what everybody had, right?
Right.
Even if somebody is slinging something I'm not interested in, I'm still going to stand there and listen to their pitch if they have one, right?
Yeah.
There was no pitch.
Dang.
None at all. And it wasn't even, there was a, hi, how are you doing, from the assistant, which, hey, if you don't like talking to people, it's a great idea to bring assistants.
Right.
So I'm definitely not down on that. But there was, hi, how are you, from this person's assistant. And I had seen one of the books on the table was something that I recognized from my inventory.
Yeah.
And and I said, oh, yeah, I actually have that book. Oh, well, here's the follow-up to it. And it was just like, oh, you clearly loved it.
Yeah.
And no, well, did you like it? Anything like that.
Right.
If somebody tells me they already have Chronicles Von Helsing, I'll say, what did you think about it before anything else, right?
Yeah.
I will be like, what did you think of it if they say they bought something of mine? I don't just immediately, and then if everything they have to say is positive, I'm like, well, did you see there's a new issue of it out? Here you go.
Right.
Look through or thumb through or whatever, right?
Yeah.
This is very much like, oh, well, here, buy the next one, right?
Jeez.
And
You're
I
not
was
going to
like,
ask how, any feedback or anything?
Right. And I had just said, oh, well, I actually haven't read the first one. Now, the reason I haven't read the first one is because it's not something that I consider to be my personal item. It's an item that belongs to my resale company.
Yeah.
And I try to not read anything that comes in there, number one. But number two, you've seen the way I am when I buy comic collections. If there was something I really wanted to read in there, I would have taken it out.
Yeah.
Wasn't anything I had any interest in. So, but I didn't say any of those things.
Right.
I just said,
You're still
I
being polite
haven't
about
I
it.
haven't had the chance to read it yet. And
Yeah.
I said it just like that, right? Oh, well, never mind then, was a response. And it was like quickly
Damn, I
pulled
would
away.
have been still trying to push my pitch on him. You
Right.
should really, try to catch up on it. Read it, see if you like it, and if you do, we also sell our books on our website, or we'll be at this show. Right. Something that you're actually putting some effort out instead of just like, oh, never mind.
Right.
Yeah, you clearly didn't have any interest.
Yeah, it was more like coming across like, well, I know you may not know what this means, but the pitch was more like 80s comic shop owners did back in the day.
Right.
Because now you go to most comic shops, there's a lot of customer service, there's a lot of, oh, hey, have you read this week? Or did you know this came out this week? What are you looking for? Back issues, new issues, da-da-da.
Right.
But, when I was a kid and I was just getting into comics around like 89 or whatever, it was like, hey kid, come here. Buy this book for $20. Well, no, I don't want to do that. What do you want then? What you got? I got some crack over here. Nah, they weren't even that good at customer service,
Damn.
It was like, Comic-Cons were the worst when they had the actual, the real comic dealers who owned shops and they were there to, advertise their stores or move stuff. Because any book you picked up out of there, they had to sit there and tell you their exacting thoughts on that for, a half hour like they were a critic.
Yeah.
So it's like buying things from Roger Ebert. That type of scene all the time. It was horrible in ways, but it was fun in ways too. And those guys still exist to a degree,
yeah.
But not like they did back in the late 80s.
Right.
And so the whole thing is their sales pitches were non-existent, and half the time, if you disagreed with them, they would immediately get rude to you, right?
Right.
I don't need your money as much as I need you to like what I like for some reason.
Yeah.
I don't give a damn if you like what I like. I need your money.
Yeah.
I feel the exact opposite. So, I would say that this person acted more like them, though, in the whole sense. It's like, oh, well, if you can't even take the time to read the first one, you own it, then I don't want you to buy the second one. That's kind of the way it came across.
That's weird.
Right? But it's the way people work at times. And,
Yeah.
And I paneled with all sorts of different personalities, and I'm just hoping that whoever I panel with at the next show is a great company. And
Yeah. Makes it fun.
if not, then I'll just
entertaining,
ramble on forever, because I'm not afraid to do that at all. You saw that when we were in Wenatchee.
It was awesome.
Nobody else had anything to say, so I just tried to chew up all the time I could.
And it worked. You got like a good, 45 minutes in?
I'm not sure how long that panel
I
was.
think it was about 45 minutes total.
Uh-huh.
So you probably got like a half hour if you added in the 15 minutes of everyone else's like weird little backstory. And
No,
crap, but
there was quite a bit of talking going on from a few of the people in there.
Yeah.
But I tried to take up just as much as I could, because it seemed like nobody wanted to talk. So I was just like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm a comic creator that's not afraid to talk. So
Yeah.
here we go.
they were all like, I don't know, it was weird. There were the people that wanted to put their input and stuff,
Uh-huh.
and then it would turn into like just complete silence.
Right?
I was like, okay, I guess you're not too concerned about
That's
talking to people.
exactly what I'm talking about when they do the weird, just like all of a sudden silence. That's when I'll just be like, okay, so I'm going to fill up this space now and just talk and talk and talk and talk. And the only person I never ever have to do that with is when I do panels with my good buddy Ben Kreger of Warrior and Keeper Comics.
Oh,
So Ben actually lived at my house for, a year, 2 years, something like that. We know each other very well. I was the best man at his wedding.
yeah.
And Ben and I play off each other extremely well. He sets up jokes, I finish them off, they're jokes aimed at him, and he sets them up intentionally so that the audience will laugh,
Right.
And when he and I have done panels together, there's no dead space, no dead air, and it's just constant influx of information coming from one of the two of us. He is by far and wide actually my favorite person to panel with. But,
Nice.
but I'm sure I will have some good panel mates
Yeah.
come to the Hillsborough show. And hopefully I'll get an opportunity to meet them beforehand. It does come in handy when you can meet the person you're on the panel with.
Gives you a nice, brief little moment to just talk things over. And
Yeah.
See what
it
they
doesn't
wanted
always
to talk
happen,
about.
unfortunately. But, But I know I've made friends with people by being on panels with them before. So
Yeah.
anyway, that's stuff that we can talk about on the next episode, because I think you need to get to work, right?
Yep.
That's it for this week's Darkslinger Mafia podcast. I'm Adam Watson.
And Levon Baker.
Thank you for listening.